he at fault for how acrimonious that relationship is?
No, I think it's basically a relationship that's engendered by the Republicans' refusal to cooperate with him.
President Carter on the relationship between President Obama and Republicans, something Carter says he didn't have as many issues with in a more bipartisan time. I sat down with the former president in a private setting to talk about the midterms and his book on the rights of women and girls.
I think the primary prejudice that we see now is, that we don't see now, is against girls and women throughout society. I grew up in Archery, Georgia. All my neighbors were African Americans. I didn't have any white neighbors. And at that time, we misled ourselves, the white people did, even those that were fairly liberal on the subject or moderate, like my mother, who always refused to acknowledge racial distinctions. But we didn't do anything about it. And the Supreme Court of the United States and the Congress and the American Bar Association and the pastors and bishops in the Christian church, they all either denied it was going on or ignored it, or they would come into our church, a small church in Plains, Georgia, and try to prove by selective scriptures in the Bible that distinctions between black and white people were God's will, that white people were inherently superior. Now, we use the same kind of scriptures and the same kind of distortions to convince people that in God's eyes, men are superior. And as you know, in the Catholic Church and the Southern Baptist Convention, for instance, women are not permitted to be priests or deacons in the church. They're not permitted to hold high offices in the church. And this signal that the great religious leaders claim that in God's eyes a woman is inferior gives men who want to abuse women an excuse, if they want it, to beat their wives or to pay a woman less than they pay men for the same job, or to deprive women of leadership positions. These kind of things go on.
And you talk about that so eloquently and at great length in this book, that the roots are, indeed the first roots you refer to when you try to explain why this discrimination against women, in religion. And yet you are so deeply religious yourself. How do you square that? Has it ever caused you to doubt, to see religion used as a weapon against women?
Well, I was a Southern Baptist for 70 years, since my birth. And I was very active in the Southern Baptist Convention. My wife and I withdrew our affiliation with the Southern Baptist Convention in 2000, in the year 2000, when they ordained, by using certain scriptures in the Bible, that a woman was not equal to man. Women had to be subservient to their husbands. And that no longer could a woman be a pastor or a deacon or a chaplain, and no longer in some Southern Baptist Convention seminaries where pastors are instructed, a woman was no longer permitted to teach a classroom if there was a boy student in the class. So we withdrew, and we have now membership in a small Baptist church in Plains. We've had women pastors, and my wife has been a deacon, and so forth. So we've still Baptist and very committed to our church, but we expressed our disagreement, I'll say, in a mild way.